Alright, so as of recording this, I've officially finished my 4th listen of Travis Scott's UTOPIA, and now I think I'm finally able to properly rank every track on the project from worst to best. But a few things before we begin. 1. This list is absolutely going to change in the future, given how new the album still is, and given how a lot of the tracks are of a similar level of quality in my opinion. Also keep in mind that this video is just that, my opinion, and you are free to disagree. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into it, starting with... Now to be completely honest, my choice for least favorite wasn't really that difficult for me, since this was truly the only song on the record that I wasn't really feeling on first listen, and on continued listen still hasn't really grown on me. There are some good parts, of course. I think the production is really cool, especially for a Travis Scott song, and Beyonce has a nice enough feature. But honestly, it kinda just feels like a leftover from Beyonce's album from last year, especially since Travis's contributions feel extremely minimal. I feel like Parasail is to Utopia what Astro Thunder is to Astroworld, since they both got that slower, more ballad-like vibe. So who knows, maybe in time I'll come to appreciate it, like I did with Astro Thunder, but right now I just think this track is a little too slow and short for me to really get into. And I'm also not really a fan of Dave Chappelle's spoken word sections of the track, although both Travis and Young Lean's vocals are fittingly beautiful. I personally think K-pop is actually really overhated. For what it is, I think it's a pretty fun and bouncy hit single. Bad Bunny's feature has some great energy, The Weeknd's verse is ridiculously catchy, and even Travis's part has grown on me a lot as I've listened to it more. But my god, this track sticks out like a sore thumb when compared to the rest of Utopia's track list, which does make it lose some points for me. Take it off the record and it's a great single to build up hype, but with it on the album, it's one of the worst tracks on it.
You know the love was X-rated, that's how we made it.
Till Further Notice is one of the tracks that I have the least to say about, honestly. Although it still feels a little weird to have it as the last track on Utopia, the song itself is pretty great. I think James Blake provides phenomenal vocals as always, and Travis's final verse is one of the best on the album. Really, the only part that I don't like is 21 Savage's. I'll talk about it more when we get to his other feature, but I'm starting to get really bored of his verses, especially since he's on pretty much every album nowadays.
I get it, love, they love me long time.
I gotta say, the chaotic and dark sound of this track is not at all what I expected originally from a song called Love, but it's still another great track regardless. No pun intended, but I absolutely love both of Travis's verses as well as his chorus. And Kid Cudi's feature here works weirdly well, which I think is just a testament to how good Travis is at placing his features. My only minor nitpick with the song is that I think it ends at a really abrupt time, when I think it would have really benefited from a nice instrumental outro. Fein was definitely the most interesting first listen on the album. The moment I heard that first synth chord, I was immediately reminded of a Playboi Carti track, specifically Vamp Anthem from Whole Lotta Red, which did make me a little nervous since I absolutely hate that track, but thankfully this one is significantly better, mainly thanks to the added complexity of the instrumental and that catchy-ass chorus. Travis also fits extremely well with the sound. I really wouldn't be opposed to hearing him work with it more in the future. But then we get to Playboi Carti's feature. And while I do like it a lot, I still don't for a second believe that this is actually him rapping. Or at least there's gotta be some sort of effect pitching his vocals down. Like he sounds like Lil Yachty, Future, and Homicide Gang all simultaneously. It's wild. Probably the most standard Travis Scott song on Utopia. Like I could have legitimately seen this being the lead single if K-pop didn't exist. But despite the song not being all that adventurous, it's still a pretty hard-hitting banger. I gotta say, I thought Rob49 was NBA Youngboy the first time I heard the verse, but despite me not even really liking either artist, I thought his super aggressive delivery was a great fit. I honestly would have liked a longer verse from him. Travis's third verse is also great, and there's another super catchy hook. But once again, the weak link is 21 Savage. I hinted at this a little when talking about his other feature, but in my opinion, 21 is becoming one of the most overrated rappers right now. I swear every verse from him nowadays sounds the exact same with pretty average flows, repetitive lyrics, and a lack of an interesting voice, all of which contribute to some painfully boring features as of late. I could talk about it a lot more, but that's another topic entirely, so let's move on.
The butterfly reflect the doors.
The instrumental for God's Country is definitely my favorite part about it. I love the creepy little melody that fills up the beat, and it's so cool when it gets pitched down for certain parts of the song, but I also think Travis delivers a really menacing verse to fit the dark atmosphere. I believe the song is actually a scrapped track from Donda by Kanye, which does make sense as I could definitely see Kanye on this beat. But man, even if there is no Kanye feature on the released version, I just wish this track was a little bit longer since it feels extremely brief at just 2 minutes.
Last day was filled over slaps, I guess gotta run this shit back. Then like the way this shit.
Thank God's another one where I don't really have much to say about it, but it is definitely another excellent track. I especially love how cinematic the build-up to the drop is with Travis's slower verses and the chorus by himself and Casey. And then when the beat drops, the energy is absolutely insane. I honestly think this is a track that's gonna grow on me a crazy amount as I listen to it more. But right now I still think it's pretty fantastic.
Write a show by myself like I'm Chelsea Handler, or write a series.
Man, what an amazing intro song for Utopia. As soon as I first heard that weird sample in the beginning, I knew this album was gonna be a special listen. The more boom bap influenced beat and Travis's grittier rapping definitely gives me strong Days Before Rodeo vibes, which is super cool to hear this deep into his career. Also, the Mike Dean synth outro is absolutely stunning, as usual for Mike Dean synth outros. Overall, a great song and a perfect introduction to make sure people know that Utopia wasn't just gonna be Astroworld 2.
Like I got a cup of this shit. Like golf at a quarter.
Probably the most polarizing song on the record in terms of public discourse so far. And I mean, it does make sense considering it features Drake, so the sicko mode comparisons are inevitable. Now as for my opinion, first off, Drake's verse is so corny, with him talking about people being scared of the six. It's funny for me considering I'm in the midst of planning a trip to Canada over the summer, and Toronto was one of the first places I considered. And also Drake's continued subliminal disses towards Pusha T are just straight up pathetic at this point. Like bro, you lost the beef, just move on. But despite how goofy the lyrics are, I can't deny that his verse is a lot of fun to listen to, and it gets me decently hyped up. Travis definitely has the better performance on both beats though, and the refrain of "Is you fucking crazy" is really infectious. So while it's certainly no sicko mode, I think Meltdown still serves as another really strong Drake and Travis Scott collab. God, this track is so goddamn weird, but I absolutely love it. First of all, you've got the instrumental, which for those who don't know is actually an old version of the beat for I Am a God off of Yeezus, that Travis himself actually had a hand in producing. Yeah, if you haven't picked up on it yet, the Kanye West influence on Utopia is very strong. But then you've got Travis's Kanye-esque verses paired with his screams about the maker, vibrator, roof shaker, etc. It's such a strange combination. And then Tizo Touchdown provides a verse that straight up sounds like it's out of a theater production. That shit goes so crazy.
Stick to the code, binary like eyes and nose.
At over 6 minutes, Schizo is the longest track in the entire record, which makes it all the more impressive how well it holds its length. I honestly lost count of how many beat switches there were on this track the first time I heard it, and all of them sound incredible, which is pretty crazy. The rapping from Travis on here is also one of the best performances on the whole album, with him effortlessly switching his flows up to perfectly match whatever beat he's on at that moment. The highlight absolutely being his verse over the final beat where he says, "I'm loyal bitch, I got yay over Biden." If I had to pick out a negative of the track, I'd say maybe Young Thug's contribution was a little dull, but it's such a short verse that it definitely doesn't drag down the quality of the whole song. Alright, so I do feel the need to mention that this spot does come with a bit of a caveat. Now, while I do enjoy Circus Maximus a ton, I do understand that it is essentially Travis Scott's version of Black Skinhead. I don't think the similarities are to a point where it's a blatant ripoff like some others think, but I still felt the need to mention it. Either way, this song absolutely slaps. The rolling drums keep the momentum of the song moving super well, and The Weeknd's little interludes throughout the track are a really nice addition, as well as Sway Lee's intro. And like I said, the Black Skinhead similarities don't really bother me. If anything, it feels like a more modern, cinematic version of it, which I think is really cool. Maybe a little high of a placement for some people, but man, this song has been stuck in my head ever since I heard it. But it's not just the catchiness that makes I Know so great in my opinion. The instrumental is another highlight, with a nocturnal piano melody throughout and some super punchy drums. The track honestly reminds me of something from Birds in the Trap, which is not a sound I ever really expected to hear from Travis again, but I'm happy we got it regardless. Also, I'm not entirely sure, but I think this might be the only track on the entire album where we get a decent amount of Travis's iconic ad-libs. Really goes to show how different this record is from the rest of his discography.
Lost on islands driven in boat cars.
So coming into Utopia, I personally tried not to listen to any leaks or previewed songs as not to ruin the surprise. So hearing Westside Gunn come in on this track blew my fucking mind the first time I heard it. I would have never expected him in a million years to be on a Travis Scott song, but he absolutely killed it. And what's even better is Travis's verses are also phenomenal. I love how there's basically no autotune on them, giving his performance a really raw and cold-blooded vibe, which fits perfectly over the eerie-ass beat. I know the song has been super hyped up before its release, but man, it absolutely delivered.
Got a couple departments, closet feel like a department.
I can't start talking about Sirens without first mentioning those drums. Holy shit, the rhythm on them gets me unbelievably hyped up every time I listen. Then you've got that vocal chop that comes in during the second verse. It's so brief, but it adds to the energy of the track so much. In addition, I think this song might have Travis's best rapping on the entire album overall. Both of his verses have such dynamic flows and vocals that it's impossible to not get swept up in the pure chaos of the track. And of course, there's another absolutely heavenly Mike Dean synth outro as the cherry on top. Honestly, this track really reminded me of Houston Fornication off of Astroworld, purely just from Travis's vigorous rapping. And while it's hard to say now, I think I might like Sirens even more. The best way I can describe Telekinesis is it's just one of those songs that's straight up magical. There is so much good with this track, I don't even know where to start, honestly. For one, Future's 2 verses are legitimately a bit heart-wrenching in my opinion. I don't know how the man does it, but he can make some of the most simple emotional lines hit like crazy with his vocals. And the craziest part is he's still my least favorite person on this track. Travis's chorus is another highlight. It's beautifully somber, and the lyrics truly feel larger than life. But of course, the real standout is absolutely SZA. The moment when she first comes in as the instrumental crescendos after staying pretty chill and ambient is, dare I say, on par with Stevie Wonder's harmonica solo on Stop Trying to Be God. Which for anyone who hasn't heard that track is extremely high praise. Overall, I think the track is simply incredible, and another testament to Travis Scott's ability to perfectly place his guests to create absolute musical euphoria. But despite all my praise of the track, it still isn't my favorite. So for those who haven't guessed it yet, my favorite track is
1,000 on my feet, stacks spread on my seat.
Probably not much of a surprise for people looking at other videos of ranking every track on Utopia, since this one has been a pretty common favorite. But yeah, as of right now, My Eyes is my favorite as well. Like Telekinesis, there's so much good to talk about with this song that it's hard to start. First I'll say, in the seemingly unending absence of Frank Ocean, I love how much inspiration Travis took from Frank with this track, while still making it his own. I swear certain lines on here actually sound like Frank's pitched up singing, the resemblance is uncanny. But regardless, Travis's vocals are great across the entire first half of the song. And we even get a bit of Sampha near the end of it, which although very short, is a perfect touch for this type of instrumental. And speaking of the instrumental, the first half sounds incredible with that distorted synth peering in and out of the song, mixed with Justin Vernon's pitched vocals. And the transition between it and the second half is incredibly seamless, which I love. As for the second half, it's surely gotta have a top 5 Travis Scott verse of all time, at the very least the best verse on the album. The non-stop flow is so smooth, and I love how as Travis gets more and more intense, the instrumental does as well. And finally, there's the lyrics. And while I don't really like talking about stuff like this since it's just plainly sad, I do appreciate that Travis was able to talk about the Astroworld Festival tragedy here instead of trying to sweep it under the rug. Perfect vocals, perfect instrumental, perfect beat switch, perfect atmosphere. My Eyes is really just a perfect song, and definitely my favorite on Utopia. Alright, so that was every song on Travis Scott's Utopia ranked from worst to best. And like I did with the Astroworld ranking video, here's all the tracks scored next to each other along with the album's overall score. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and comment below your ranking of all the tracks on Utopia. And also make sure to check out my previous videos ranking every track on other albums with the playlist linked in the description. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching.